Today I want to talk about Megaspore and the ingredients in this spore-based probiotic. It's the first all-spore antioxidant producing probiotic supplement on the market. About 60 years ago, almost 65 years ago, those spores that are in Megaspore have been used in Europe as a prescription drug for IBS symptoms. And now you can get it over the counter as a supplement. Here's the ingredient list of Megaspore. It contains 5 Bacillus strains, and each spore does something different, but they all work in synergy. In nature, they work together. Those spores have been sequenced, their DNA have been sequenced to ensure that they do not code for any toxic proteins. They have been tested in humans and in the lab, and the Bacillus spore in Megaspore have been isolated from humans by the Royal Holloway University in London and Professor Cutting in England. Here you can see the Royal Holloway University in London, their website. And here you can see the study that they did on Bacillus subtilis, which was isolated from the human gastrointestinal tract. And here is Simon M. Cutting, who did this study. As part of an ongoing study to determine the true habitat of Bacillus species, we report here the isolation and characterization of Bacillus subtilis from the human gastrointestinal tract. Strains were isolated from ileum biopsies as well as from fecal samples, and their biotypes were defined. You can read here the studies and search here on their website for other studies they did. If we look at Bacillus indicus, the HU36 strain, it produces carotenoids in the gut. It is important to know that the humans can't really absorb carotenoids from food. Eyesight and hair growth, as well as healthy skin, are all dependent on carotenoids. About 90% of the carotenoids that our body uses is produced by the beneficial bacteria in the gut. And the next spore is Bacillus subtilis, HU58. It is a natural human-derived strain that produces a broad spectrum of about 12 carotenoids, different carotenoids, and they are highly bioavailable. Carotenoids are antioxidants. If you want to keep your gut lining healthy, it's important to reduce inflammation. And here is where Bacillus subtilis comes into play. HU58 also does quorum sensing, meaning it identifies dysfunctional organisms in the gut and reduces their number by starving them out. At the same time, it increases the number of beneficial bacteria. This reduces the dysbiotic gut microbiome. And HU58 also produces biofilms, which protect the beneficial bacteria. Here you can see a picture of a dysbiotic gut and a healthy gut. And in the dysbiotic gut, you have lots of pathogenic organisms, and you have the single cell layer of the gut lining at the bottom here in red, and you can see there is a gap between the cells. That means that large proteins that have been digested from the food can move through this gap, and they end up in the hepatic portal vein and move to the liver, where they have to be detoxified and then the blood moves into systemic circulation. But the inflammation on the gut lining is mainly caused by those pathogenic organisms. If you have a healthy gut, you have the gut lining at the bottom here, and you don't see any gaps in between. They open up somewhat to let the digested food through, the particles through, but not large proteins. So you don't have any inflammation at the gut lining. And above the gut lining, you have here in light green, you have the mucosal layer, where part of the beneficial bacteria are living. You have the blue and the greens here that are beneficial bacteria, and here are the dark blue with the red. Those are the spores, which come out of spore form once they reach the GI tract and the small intestine, and they detect moisture and food and worms. They come out of spore form and do their job. So here in a healthy gut, you have less pathogenic bacteria and more beneficial bacteria. Therefore, you have less inflammation directly in the gut, and you don't clog the liver with any toxins or large proteins that shouldn't be there. Chances that you have systemic inflammation in the body or in different organs is way down. So you don't have any inflammation here in the gut lining and in the mucosal area that protects the gut lining. While if you look at the dysbiotic gut, you don't have the mucosal layer. There is inflammation going on. That's why it's also shaded in red to illustrate this.